that PR was a very bittersweet moment because it was a PR that I needed at the time, especially with a shifting environment in the NCAA and especially the SEC with roster cuts and budget cuts. So we had the threat of us looming over all year. I really felt like I hadn't done anything yet that season. I had PR'd by like 1 second. I just hadn't shown anything that proved that I still belonged on the team. And I had that looming over my head going into the last race. I also had making the SEC championships looming over my head into the last race.
We're joined by Trenton Sandler, a middle distance runner for LSU, a full-time student, a content creator with over 100,000 followers and growing quickly. We're diving into the demands of being an athlete in the SEC, finding balance, PRs, and his mindset. But first, Trenton, you posted, "Real ones know it all started with being the fastest kid at recess, but it always wasn't that easy. You originally wanted to play pro soccer." Tell us about that transition.
Growing up my whole life, it was never, I want to go to college. College wasn't even really in the talks. I always just wanted to be a professional soccer athlete. I saw the pros doing it. I went to a lot of Sporting KC games being from Kansas City. I idolized Christian Namath, and he was a winger for Sporting. I really wanted to go pro after college. I did track as a side thing. In middle school, you could only do track and cross country because every other sport was like too dangerous. I just continued on with track and cross country on top of playing soccer. Eventually, the college talk started happening. The ACTs started being taken, and somehow ended up running. It really wasn't until my junior season when I really realized that I wanted to do track. It was always soccer until then.
Along your journey, what do you think is the biggest mistake you made athletically when you were younger?
I think going into college is where I made my first mistake. It was a little fish in a big pond. I was kind of drowning as just a freshman trying to keep up with all these older cross country runners coming from someone who had only ever really done track as a middle distance guy. And every single workout, every single day at practice, even days that were supposed to be kind of easier days, I was emptying the tank. I was going 10 out of 10, attacking every single day. Kind of felt like I didn't belong there yet, so I had to prove myself. And that constantly led to me being injured. So I spent my first 2 years here at LSU kind of on the sidelines. I didn't run cross. I didn't run indoor track. I'd be hurt all winter after attacking it too hard in the fall. And then my track season would suffer because of that. So I finally fixed it and came around this summer by every effort became a 7 out of 10. I never really emptied the tank. I was able to get my volume up. And by doing all of that, I've been able to stay healthy now for the longest that I've ever been able to stay healthy. And I just had a kind of breakout cross-country season.
Do you feel the physical workload was the biggest adjustment, or do you think it was your perspective to how much work you were doing before college?
I actually think that my workload before college was higher. In the springs, I was still playing club soccer. So like in the springs, I would go to school and then I'd go to track practice at 3, and then I'd be at track practice till almost 6. I wouldn't heat anything. I'd basically go directly to soccer practice then from 6 to 8:30, 9, and then I'd come home and I'd have dinner. So being in college now, I think that my workload is actually lower than it used to be, which is why I thought that I could attack the workouts as hard as I attacked the workouts.
That's a very rare thing to hear, that your high school workouts were harder. It sounds like one of the things that you've had to learn, maybe the hard way, you can elaborate on this, is the importance of fueling and getting the right amount of food in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was something I constantly kind of battled, especially going into college. I always wanted to bulk up for soccer. And then when I was running track, all the cross guys they're thin. I wanted to be more like them. And so I was not fueling adequately, which also is partially what went into my injuries. But now I feel like I've really found that good balance, and I've found my ideal routine. I'm eating before practice now, which was unheard of me a year ago. And I think that the fueling has become infinitely important because the way I learned it is if you fuel before practice, you're burning through that fuel first, you're burning less into your muscles reserves, and then you're going to feel better the next day. You might not actually feel that benefit from fueling before practice at practice, but you're going to feel better the next day, which is going to just keep compiling that training
on and off being injured for your first 2 years. What was the mindset during that time, not being able to have the same workload as before?
The mindset during that time was definitely rough. I I attacked cross training really, really, really hard. I would do two-a-days. I first learned how to do two-a-days my senior year of high school, actually, was the first time I ever got hurt. And I would attack an aqua jog in the morning and then a swim in the afternoon. And then I'd just run the track workouts to try to still have a senior season. But I would attack two-a-days basically every single day, and that just drains you mentally. People underestimate how much harder it can be to bike and swim and aqua jog and elliptical than it actually is to run.
You have a great perspective on things. Share your thoughts on this post. Sometimes we become so obsessed with our future that we forget we are right in the middle of what we always dreamed of.
My whole life, I wanted to be an athlete at the highest stage. I wanted to compete in front of thousands. I also always wanted to be a YouTuber, which is great because that's something that I'm doing now. But I always thought that I'm just a kid from Kansas and I never thought it would actually happen. And now that it is actually happening, I'm still always thinking about the next step. And I think that it's really, really important to just take a step back and look at it from childhood's you's perspective. Childhood me would be jumping up and down, punching the air, excited, just hyped to the moon. And now I don't ever look at it like that until I hear a quote like that. And then I think about it for a second and I'm like, wow, come a long way.
Which leads perfectly into you have a PR of 3:48 in the 1500, which is the equivalent of a 4:06 mile. Take us back to that day and what was that experience like?
That was coming off of a rough season. That was my sophomore season. Coming off of the winter, I had been hurt through January or so. The season had not been going quite how I wanted it to, and that was the last race of the season. That PR was a very bittersweet moment because it was a PR that I needed at the time, especially with a shifting environment in the NCAA and especially the SEC with roster cuts and budget cuts. So we had the threat of us looming over all year. A cross country team can only have 10 guys in the SEC. A track team can only have 35 guys in the SEC, which realistically at a sprint school, that means you're only going to keep a handful of distance runners. I really felt like I hadn't done anything yet that season. I had PR'd by like 1 second. I just hadn't shown anything that proved that I still belonged on the team. And I had that looming over my head going into the last race. I also had making the SEC championships looming over my head into the last race. And so I ran. It was like a 3-second PR at the time, which felt great, but my teammate had, man, his must have been like a 7-second PR. In that race, I jumped up to the SEC roster to, hey, you're now our third guy. You're going to go to SECs for the 1500. And then he, in the exact same race, jumped me. So he ended up going to go to SECs and I stayed home. But it was good enough to keep my position on the team. So kind of bittersweet.
Did you feel like your back was up against the wall?
Absolutely. I think going through everybody's mind at that time was, hey, what am I going to do if I get cut? I kind of always felt good, but you never really know. And your mind can start to wander of what if.
Hey, quick pause. If this conversation is providing you value, please take literally 5 seconds and hit that follow or subscribe button on your app. This is the best way to make sure that you don't miss any value from future episodes. Now back to the conversation. You balance academics, 17 credits at one point, cross country, indoor, outdoor, content creation, social life. Do you ever feel overwhelmed or burned out?
I mean, absolutely. It is a challenge to keep up with all that. I think that most people overhype how hard it really is to be just like a student athlete. Balancing classes, sure, there's some majors that are really hard. I started off as a kinesiology major and now I'm a business major. But the balance is never crazy, crazy overwhelming. There are tons of students that work a job and go to school. But once you start to mix content in there and then you start to travel, and me personally, if I have homework or content or something looming over my head while we're traveling, I don't perform as well. It's that idea of just stress as a whole. Your body doesn't know the difference between the cortisol that you get from, shoot, I have an exam tomorrow versus, shoot, I have a race tomorrow. And when that builds up and you have a race on Friday and you still have assignments that are hanging over your head that are due that night at 11:59, you're just not going to perform as well. It's as simple as that. So when you mix in all of that, trying to get everything done so that you can perform your best, that's when it starts to get overwhelming.
How do you deal with the overwhelm?
That's honestly something I'm still trying to figure out. Figure out your priorities. If something's kind of unimportant and kind of unurgent, we often let things like that distract us from the things that are really important and really urgent. I might I might sit down and be like, oh, I have a homework assignment due in 3 hours, or I need to edit this video to put out at 9 a.m. the next morning. But then I sit down and I check my email, which isn't really that important at the moment. It's not really urgent. No one's threatening me in my email that I need to respond to right now. And I think we so often let things like that get in the way of the things that are truly important and truly urgent.
Yeah, I'm a victim myself, just mindlessly checking email. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen into that trap. Probably just this week, you know? So definitely prioritize. And you're creating really quality content, really good content, challenges and day in a life and your experience, your journey as a athlete at LSU. What's your motivation for creating the content?
I've wanted to be a creator since I was a kid. I first started creating when I was with like my friend just across the street, and we'd make these little iMovie trailers with our iPads. And then it turned into making YouTube videos. I've had various YouTube channels across the years, making YouTube videos with my friends. And I just thought that no one was ever going to care. Like I said, I'm just a random high schooler from Kansas. What do I have that makes me different? And so I kind of gave it up. I took some formal videography classes in high school, which gave me some good technical skills and editing and whatnot. But I had kind of given up on the idea until I got this opportunity at LSU, which is where I decided that now I have something. Like, this is something that can set me apart from whoever else, and I can make content that people care about. But then I ran into, now I want to make content full-time after college. What do I do when I don't have LSU? And so the same thing that gave me a platform ended up kind of giving me an ultimatum of, do I make all my content centered around, hey, I'm an athlete at LSU? Or do I make content centered around, hey, I'm me and I run for LSU?
Whatever you choose to create, I feel like you're going to do an awesome job with it. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
When I do give advice, the most common advice that I give is that consistency is key. Make sure, whether it's track or reading a book or whatever it may be, if you read 10 pages a day, you'll get through a 300-page book in a month. Versus if you read 30 pages today and then you don't read for a week and then you read 30 pages the next week, it's going to take you, 10 weeks? Like, consistency is always key. And it was that same thing that I ran into my freshman and sophomore year, where I was constantly emptying the tank, running 10 out of 10 efforts every single day. I couldn't stack that consistency, and it's why it took me so long to really have this improvement that I've had this season.
Awesome advice. So simple wins is not only the scoreboard. What does simple wins mean to you?
Recently, simple wins has been during races. I have shifted my mentality a little bit to, don't just think about the outcome of the race. Don't just think about the end of the, cross country's an 8K. It's a long race. Instead, think about the little things within the race. Like, oh, there's an Auburn guy up there. Go get him. And then when you get him, celebrate a little bit. Give yourself a little fist bump. Smile. No one's going to care. And then when you're rolling down the next hill, you might see a Tennessee guy. Go get him. Give yourself that little simple win. Or even if the win is just, hey, I want to hang on to my teammate through 1K. When you get to that 1K mark, celebrate a little bit and then start thinking about the next one and the next one. And eventually you'll reach the end of the race.
I love that. Trenton, you put out a lot of great content. Where can people find you online?
You can find me anywhere with just my name, Trenton Sandler. I mostly post on YouTube, Instagram, and then TikTok.
Trenton, I appreciate your time today, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I have one final question for you. Who else would benefit from listening to this conversation? If you have someone in mind, go ahead and share the episode with them right now. If you don't think of anyone immediately, go ahead and leave us a review on whatever platform you're on so people just like you can find the episode. Thank you for your time. Stay strong.